Welcome to Hornbill TV's Primetime with Ngullie. Ladies and gentlemen, yesterday the ministerial-led government had allocated portfolios to a number of ministers and advisors. I think we all can now continue with our life because right now that the elections are over, the portfolios have already been allocated, and now all of us had been just recently we had been very curious about what kind of portfolios our candidates might be getting. So I think we have been watching this, and the list of the portfolios from the government was released yesterday. So I think you'll find it very interesting that this time there will be a lot of new faces in the cabinet and even in the advisory layer of the government who have got very interesting portfolios. So we'll be checking out on those. It is not so much about governmental assignments here as it is for the politics behind it all. The selection and allocations themselves speak much about how politics are deeply entrenched in our lives, even in ordinary and mundane government functionalities. We will be analyzing some of the portfolios of some of the lawmakers in a little while. So let's see what other news beats we have for you today. Besides that, we have updates on anti-drugs enforcement elsewhere in Assam. I will tell you a lot of stories about it that you have never heard before. Yes, also there is trouble in some areas of border areas of Mokokchung along the border with our neighbor Assam. So I'll be telling you a lot of news stories that you have never heard before. That's what I guarantee you. So we will be detailing all this in the main component of our program, and I will be telling you about something that you might have never heard before. It's called the Merapani War between Assam and Nagaland too. I think you might have heard it from someone else, but most of you might not have. So keep watching. Now let's check out some of the important news events for Friday. A village council in Mokokchung has alleged harassment from the Assam Forest Department and Assam Police yet again. The governor of Nagaland has approved yesterday the portfolios of the Council of Ministers of Nagaland, 9 cabinet ministers and 24 advisors specifically. A village council in Mokokchung district has alleged harassment from the Assam Forest Department and Assam Police yet again. The question of Assam Police, Assam authorities harassing our people at the border area seem to be continuing. This is another one. The Ausandan village council issued a press release on Friday stating that on February 8, some media persons along with personnel from the Forest Department and of course the Assam Police harassed villagers besides taking away a car that belonged to the villagers. That was the allegation that was stated in the statement which we received today. The villagers had been cultivating in the area for the past few decades without any disturbance, the village council said in its statement. On February 13, after the incident, border officials from both the states of Assam and Nagaland talked at a place called Chungtia Yamsan village and agreed to go ahead with a cultivation based on the reason that the cultivation area was the only source of livelihood for the village. However, on March 8, some people from the Assam side of the border came and lit fire to the spot. The village said that they had been cultivating in the area for the 3rd time on rotation. That's what they say. The village council also appealed to the authorities in this regard to address the matter at the earliest. That way, the statement said, the villagers can start their cultivation activities in the right season and without delay. Did you check out which portfolio your minister received? The governor of Nagaland approved yesterday the portfolios of the Council of Ministers of Nagaland, 9 cabinet ministers and of course 25 advisors specifically. As usual, it is Chief Minister Nefirio who will be holding the finance portfolio, personnel and administrative reforms department too. He will also be in charge of all important policy issues and other portfolios not allotted to any other minister. It was a foregone conclusion that Mr. Yeo would be keeping the finance department very close to his heart. I think the only time in Nagaland government's history when someone besides the chief minister actually held the finance portfolio was Congress leader K. Tere. Tere was a finance minister in the first Dan government in 2003, if I'm not mistaken. Now it's a full circle again for Deputy Chief Minister T.R. Ziliang, who was Nefirio's right-hand man since breaking from the Congress those days. Did you know that T.R. Ziliang was a Congress youth leader? Some of you might know that. Later, there was trouble in the relationship before the 2014 fight with Nefirio that saw Ziliang become a chief minister. Now he is Deputy Chief Minister. Ziliang will be holding the Planning and Transformation Department and of course the National Highway Department too. Deputy Chief Minister Yantongo Patan of the BJP retained one of the most coveted portfolios, the Home Department. His additional charge is now Border Affairs. The Border Affairs portfolio is a very natural assignment for Y. Patan here, because it is closer to Wokha where he is from. It is right in the heart of Nagaland's border dispute with Assam. Let me tell you a story about this. Do you know that the police forces of Assam and Nagaland engaged in an armed conflict that it came to be called the Merapani War in 1985? Did you know that there was actually a major armed conflict between the forces of Nagaland and Assam? So this was in 1985. There were 2 major incidents in 1979 and 1985 resulting in more than 100 fatalities, including about 28 Assam policemen who were killed. Approximately 20,000 people along the border were displaced. In June 1985, an approximate number of about 41 people were killed, including 28 Assam police personnel at what we know today as the trading center of Merapani. That's between Wokha and the Assam border. And of course, another fight was at Golaghat. Now you know why the Assam-Nagaland border issue is something Nagaland should seriously address. Okay, back to the portfolios, and the BJP wants to make sure that it has 2 in the bag. Now back to the assignments of the ministers. Veteran G. Kaito Aye has got one of the most coveted departments in Nagaland again, placing the NDPP firmly in the center of the state's policy making direction in road development. Roads and Bridges Minister, that is what he is. He is back to the same portfolio he held when he joined the JDU. Then he joined the NDPP to become Minister for Agriculture. Another big one that the BJP wants to keep is PHED. Minister Jacob Zimomi retains Public Health Engineering besides being given the cooperation portfolio. Mr. Zimomi is going to be very busy now again because he has got the PhD, another major department of the government of Nagaland. I think it was widely expected that Mr. Jacob Zimomi would retain the PHED as it is one of the so-called Big 9 portfolios. These are the Big 9 portfolios: Home, Roads and Bridges, PHED, Agriculture, School Education, Urban and Rural Development Departments, the Health and Family Welfare Department, and of course the Industries and Commerce Department. These are the big ones. It would have been about 10 big ones if Nefirio wouldn't let go of the finance in the first place, not in his hands but in someone else's hands. P. Paiwang Konyak got the Health and Family Welfare Department this time. But because you have already been given the Home, PhD and the Health and Family Welfare Department, the NDPP certainly had to take Rural Development. Mitsubu Jamir got it along with SIRT. Interestingly, C.L. John is one of the several ministers who landed several departments. He has been given forest, environment and climate change, and village guards. As expected, the first Naga female government minister, Salhautunyo Kruse, got the women resource development and of course horticulture. This was expected, and if you are the NDPP, you will have to keep horticulture and agriculture with you. Now let's check out the advisors. Now the governor has appointed 24 advisors to hold various portfolios. Jali Rio continues to be in charge of urban development and municipal affairs. Yes, these are the departments that the NDPP has been looking forward to actually having, because when you have portfolios like the PhD and the health department in your hands, then I think you get a lot of bargaining power in there. So the partners share the big pies. Former Minister Tongpang Ozakam, he is now advisor for water resources. This might be bittersweet for the Mokokchung legislature. There are observers who say it would have been better if he had stayed independent. When you are an independent legislator, you have a huge bargaining power, especially in coalition politics. One possible reason why he was instated as a minister earlier, holding the housing and mechanical department, was that he was an independent. Now that he is with the NDPP, he has to toe his party's line. Then there is the first legislator for the 2023 elections to be declared a winner, Kazeto Kenemi of the 31st Akuluto Assembly constituency. Akuluto is my grandparents' town, and when somebody talks to me about Akuluto, I get a bit emotional here. Kenemi has been given the animal husbandry and veterinary services. And then the NDPP has kept another of the bigger portfolios, agriculture. Former Land Resource Director Bhatang Yanthan is now advisor for agriculture. Then there is Dr. Kekrel Hude Yome. He is now the advisor for school education and SCERT. And of course, we have got the first female legislator to be elected to the Nagaland Legislative Assembly, Hekani Jakalu Kinsey. She is advisor for the Industries and Commerce Department, another of the bigger departments here. As some of you might have noticed, there is a name of a person missing in the list. Ungma Villages Sharinge Longkamer, formerly the Speaker of the Nagaland Legislative Assembly. His name is neither in the cabinet nor among the advisors. My management and we were talking about this earlier, that this most likely indicates he will again be named the Speaker of the Assembly again. Likewise, there is no mention of who the Deputy Speaker would be. It is understood that the post will go to someone from the other parties who extended support to the NDPP and the BJP coalition government. It is most likely that if Sharingan Longkamer is named the Speaker, the Deputy Speaker will go to someone from most probably the NCP, considering that the Nationalist Congress Party is the largest non-alliance party with 7 legislators who won the elections earlier. We will have to wait and see about that. Let's check out the next news bit. The Northeast states are said to have recorded at least 110,000 drug users in the past 2 decades. This has led enforcement agencies, especially in Assam and Manipur, to pull up their socks. A team of Assam police have arrested 3 individuals for alleged drug smuggling activities on Thursday night. The authorities seized drugs worth approximately 10 crore. That's what our correspondent in Assam reported today. Acting on special intelligence input, an operation was carried out in the Kontashira area in Assam. There, 3 individuals were apprehended from a Maruti Alto that was reportedly coming in from Mizoram. Approximately 100 swab cases filled with 1.3 kilograms of drugs were found. That's what our correspondent says.
আমি এটা খবৰ পাইছিলোঁ মিজোৰামৰ পৰা এখন গাড়ী আহি আমাৰ যোনটো বাজাৰীচাৰা বৰ্ডাৰ আছে মিজোৰাম অসম সীমান্ত সেইটো চাইডৰ পৰা আমি এনেকুৱা খবৰটো পোৱাৰ লগে লগে আমি এটা টীম ফৰ্ম কৰি আমি সেইপিনে ৰৱানা হ'লোঁ আৰু তাতে দুখন ছাছপেক্টেড গাড়ী আছিলে তো আমি দুইখন ছাছপেক্টেড গাড়ী ৰখাই পেলাই এখন এল্টো গাড়ী যোনটো নাম্বাৰ AS 10F5299 এই গাড়ীখনত থৰলি চাৰ্চ কৰোঁতে কিছুমান চিক্ৰেট চেম্বাৰ আছিলে এই চিক্ৰেট চেম্বাৰ্ছত আমি দৰ্জাৰখিনি খুলি পেলাই আমি 100টা চুটকেছেছ অফ হিৰ'ইন পালোঁ যাৰ ৱেইট হ'ল 1.3 kg আৰু তাতে আমি তিনিজনক এপ্ৰিহেণ্ডো কৰিছোঁ যোন গাড়ীত উপস্থিত আছিলে তেওঁলোকৰ নাম হ'ল কবিৰ আহমদ আলতাফ এণ্ড কাদিৰ এই তিনিজন পাথাৰকান্দি আৰু নীলামবাজাৰ এৰিয়াৰ বাসিন্দা
ক'ৰ পৰা লৈ আহিছিলে ক'ত যাব এইবিলাক
আমি ইনিচিয়েল ইনভেষ্টিগেশ্যনত গম পাইছোঁ তেখেতে এইখিনি চাম্পাইৰ পৰা আনিছে মিজোৰামৰ আৰু আমাৰ অসীমগঞ্জলৈকে অনা তেওঁলোকৰ হেৰি আছিলে
এইবিলাক কিবা বাংলাদেশ পঠোৱাৰ ব্যৱস্থা আছে
এট প্ৰেজেণ্টটো তেওঁলোক অসীমগঞ্জলৈ অনাৰ কথা আছিলে তাৰপিছত বিভিন্ন জেগালৈ তেওঁলোকে ডিষ্ট্ৰিবিউট কৰিলে
I do not know much about drug abuse in other states in the Northeast, but in Nagaland it was always demonized, not in conventional sense, but severely. I remember the drug abusers those days in Wokha were called Antichrist actually. Here is something for you, some of you might not know. Do you know that drug users, drug peddlers and even some alcoholics were shot dead or severely punished in Nagaland during the height of political violence in Nagaland? Did you know that? If you grew up in the 80s and 90s for instance, then you are old enough to remember things that the younger Naga generation will never read about in the newspapers or watch on TV. Shooting death, drug abusers and peddlers were not uncommon when I was growing up. In fact, my eldest brother, the Morong Express illustrator, is one of the only 2 or 3 survivors from his batch who escaped being shot. All his friends were either shot dead or tortured because they used drugs those days. Everyone from my generation in Wokha knows about this. I personally knew several of my brother's friends who were shot dead. There was also a neighbor in Kohima who was shot dead just near the paramedical institute. When his family brought him to their house that morning that he was shot, blood was still spurting from his side. Further, some of these people, especially those engaged in selling drugs, used to be punished by means of having their hair shaved off. They used to shave off the hair of women who peddled drugs, for instance. A neighbor that I had those days had the top of her head shorn off. She had to go about wearing a scarf for a long time. Again, one common method of punishment for drug users and alcoholics those days were locks, like locks. So locks were driven into the ears of those who were fortunate enough to escape being shot. This is not fiction. In fact, you might find a story about this from the archives of Eastern Mir. It is a very good thing that we don't live in those times anymore and drug users are given compassion and treatment unlike those days when they were simply shot dead or tortured. Let's check out the next news item. It's quality education time, ladies and gentlemen. The Department of School Education has found approximately 50 teachers in Nagaland who are allegedly keeping proxy teachers. The state has reportedly terminated 2 of the teachers accused of it. Media reports say 3 teachers have resigned while approximately 45 teachers were under investigation. Early in 2022, the Department of School Education had taken a similar action against 441 government school teachers for what the authorities alleged were unethical practices from October 2019 to June 2022. The school education authorities had stated then. The alleged unethical practices, according to the establishment, included engagement of proxy teachers, absenteeism, and of course undertaking dual employment, that is having 2 jobs. So that's what the authorities said. Among others, 399 teachers across the state were penalized for keeping proxies. Do you know what they were asked to do? According to the authorities, they were ordered to send photographs taken at school and to email it to the authorities every day for a period of about 1 year. So imagine taking a selfie of yourself, teaching your students to prove that you have actually been to the school that you have been posted to. It's a very good thing that the government is doing something about it. But this is chicken feet compared to what happened in the early decade of the millennium. Those of us in the media still remember what happened about 15 to 20 years ago. More than 4,000 or about 3,400 teachers were found to be illegally appointed, or they had no relevant documentations, or they were not qualified. That was about 20 years ago, and I think for more than 2 years the NSF and student organizations protested in this regard. That was a time when people in Nagaland started using the term backdoor appointment widely. I think it was the NSF, or was it the ANSU that led the agitations for several years. If I'm not mistaken, the controversy was during 2006 to 2008. Those were the top news picks of the day, ladies and gentlemen. We will be bringing you more updates in regard to events as they happen here. We just want to remind you here that this is not a normal news bulletin. It is more like an exploration of the thematic news events that take place, so that we will be looking just beyond the details and the events as being reported. We will go into the backstory of it. So keep watching, and we will be back next time. I'm Ngullie. See you next time.